Hello and welcome to this short video clip on avoiding plagiarism. My name is Kurt Komarumi. I'm a marketing professor at Ithaca College and I'm an eCornell instructor. Let's go right to the Canvas interface and go over some key concepts. Your first step is to go and take a look at eCornell's plagiarism policy. So the key thing to point out is the definition of plagiarism is this: the presentation of someone else's work as your own without source credit. Let's take a look and highlight that. That's really what we're talking about here. Now, where do students typically run into problems? There are two places: in the discussion threads and in the projects. Let's use the example of the discussion thread. In this particular course, we're being asked to respond to a discussion question on ethics in internet marketing. So a student would likely do some research on ethical or unethical practices. And let's assume that you have found a good source. Here's one that lists a code of ethics. Now we want to use this content in our discussion response. There are two ways that we can go about doing this. The first is that we can paraphrase or put this into our own words. So let's say that we highlighted a couple of things such as cyber fraud activities, or perhaps we wanted to talk about abusive spamming, and that's another key concept. So we could come back into our discussion thread and we could put some of those terms into our own words and express this ourselves. Do we need a citation to the source in that particular case? Yes and no. Right? No, it is not plagiarism to paraphrase the content that you found on this other site. However, one of the things that I teach my undergraduate students is that whenever you're using content, and particularly statistics that you have found somewhere, it's always a good idea to use a citation to the source. And that demonstrates your credibility. And it's also a courtesy to the readers of your post so that they know where to go to find more information. However, you are not obligated to use that citation if you're using this content but putting it into your own words. Now, here is how people typically get into trouble, and that is copy and paste. So let's say that we look at this phrase, and this looks really good to us. Okay, a member agrees to avoid the practice of abusive spamming, opting out, components, and so forth. So we do a copy. All right. So we come in here and we do a copy, and we say that looks like really good content. And then we go over here and we drop it in and we paste it in. Right? Now, if I go ahead and hit post reply, I've just committed plagiarism because I've presented somebody else's work as my own. I can still use this direct quote, but here is the proper way. So the first thing I'm going to do is put this in quotation marks. This indicates to the reader that this is not my original work. Now the second thing that I need to do is indicate my source. Where did this come from? So I'll just put a little bit of a citation and I'll come over here to my original site. I will copy the URL, come back here and paste it in. So now I have a post that uses a direct quote, but it's in quotation marks and the source is listed. So in this case, this is a perfectly acceptable practice, and it avoids any form of academic dishonesty. So I hope that has helped you understand how to use source material. Again, to quickly summarize, if you paraphrase or put it into your own words, you do not need to use a source. However, it's a good idea to list a source, particularly when you're accessing or talking about statistics. If you are using a direct quote that you've copied from another site, you must include quotation marks around the content and a link to the source. My final piece of advice is that if you are in doubt about anything, please check with your instructor. Thanks for listening in.